I have a questions. How can I know whether which stage of investment or like what kind of fund I should go for? For example, like at the some stage, I should go for the pre-sitting or sitting or series, but I have no idea. And the second one is, except from myself and family and friends, how, which is the, I mean, like, can you explain more about the angel investor? So, and what we have to trade off to get the fund from the angel investor? Yeah, that's it. That is my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. If I understand correctly, you're essentially asking, how do you know what stage or the type of investors? The way you should look at it is that you should raise enough capital so that you can operate for at least 18 months. And so you never want to raise so much capital that you have enough money to operate for 5 years, because money comes with a cost, right? If you raise money, too much money too soon, that means you're giving away too much of your company too soon. So here's an example. When you're first starting out and you value your company, say at $3 million, just hypothetically, and you really only need about $300,000 to operate per year, but you ended up raising 1.5 million. That means you giving away half of your company at a very early stage, where in reality, if you just grow another year or two, you can raise at a vastly higher valuation. So you don't want to raise, you don't want to raise too much more money than what you actually need. The type of investors depends on how much money you want to raise. Just a few years ago, there's no way to raise $1 million unless you go to a VC. And so now, obviously, through platforms like Republic, that is doable, but angels and friends and families are meant to get you $50,000, maybe $100,000 or $200,000, even in the US. Very rarely that people can raise from angels, more than a couple $100,000. So it very much depends on what it is that you need in terms of actual capital. I think the second question on your end was, how do you find and pitch angels? And that's where it depends on where you live. Obviously, in Vietnam, as far as I know, and my involvement, there's more on the business government side and less in the startup ecosystem. So I understand it less well. But I know that, for example, there are a couple, I think Tu Vung, is that right, Stephen? There's a woman who runs a pretty active angels network out of Vietnam. Yes, but the name comes to me, I'll look her up and I'll send it to you guys. Then that's a network that can be very compelling. But Vietnam still has very few of them. I know that the sharks in Vietnam, the show Shark Tanks, the sharks there also personally invest. So you can identify those people and find a warm contact, but obviously it's not as wealthy as a country compared to the US. And so in the United States, there are vastly more angels network, but at the end of the day, this network fit around ecosystem, the type of founders. They're angels network that only invest in female founders, and I think you see a lot more and more of that. And what we're trying to build out through VietChallenge, and my interest is seeing if there's a angels network of Vietnamese American funding Vietnamese startup, and that is to come. But that's probably a harder thing to find than just a Google search online. You probably have to go through, people like VietChallenge and the Partners Network to help you identify. But also straight up, just online, you can identify famous people, entrepreneurs, particularly in investment shows like Shark Tanks in Vietnam and beyond.